Hey Metal Maniacs, this is Tom from Hateful Agony from Germany, and you are thrashing it up on the Metal Meltdown on Metal Messiah Radio with Dave Softee.
Alrighty, Metal Maniacs, here we go. Please help me welcome to Metal Messiah Radio, hailing from Berlin, Germany. Here to talk about the band's making of a brand new offering as they are headed into the studio to create a new thrash masterpiece. Joining us from thrash metal band Hateful Agony, we have one of our brothers that used to have a show here on Metal Messiah Radio, the good, the bad, and the ugly Krauts. Please welcome drummer Tom of Hateful Agony.
Thank you, Dave, for having me, and hello to all the listeners.
Tom, it's great to finally have you here on the Metal Meltdown. I know you've been wanting to come on the show to talk about your upcoming music. I think now is a really good time. Maybe last year it might have been a little bit too early, so it's great to have you here. And we're living in really fucked up times, as you know. I mean, this is old news already, but I need to ask because everything is affected by this, and everybody has their own personal story. So, how have you been during this entire COVID pandemic?
So I think my standpoint is life. What is what you made of it? And we toured in 2020. We mostly played in East European countries because there were not so much lockdowns. And in a country like Poland, for example, they only have city lockdowns where like one city locks down completely and then opens up again, and not state lockdowns or province lockdowns. Like, it wasn't affecting us so bad than other bands. We found a good way out to not be part of the whole COVID panic. Also, we didn't rehearse at Bavaria anymore. We went to a different state, and we had a rehearsal space there. So we were always practicing, and we were playing live until 2021, and we just spent 2021 with showing new members and new stuff. And I actually wanted to make a record once in my lifetime where I'm absolutely happy with everything, and I never did that before. It was always like 3 months after the recording, I was listening to the CD, and I was like, or to the vinyl, and I was like, okay, you could have changed this part, or that could have been better, or the solo is not so good. And I wanted to do something which is more thought out and more, where I can look back like 10 years from now and say it's a good album, and I still can listen to it because I like everything what we did in the past, but I'm not so happy about some parts of it.
Well, I must tell you that I'm very impressed with your latest release. The sound of Hateful Agony is just really killer, and I really do love your Plastic Culture Pestilence. That came out in 2018, so you're definitely due for a new offering. But I have to tell you, I noticed that you've been around since 1997. I really never knew you've been around that long, and you have 6 full offerings out there. And I noticed that you do take your time getting the music out, but I wouldn't be so hard on yourself. The music is great. I mean, I'm more familiar with your latest release, but I think this is like a German thrash masterpiece. It's just as good as listening to a good Destruction or Creator offering. You have to don't be hard on yourself. This is really a good offering. So let's just mention more about the band and the history of the band, and let's mention your previous releases. In 2020, you had Existence is Punishment. You had in 2003 Black Hole. In 2006 Obey. In 2008 In the Name of God. And 2012 Forward into Doom. And as I mentioned, your latest release 2018 Plastic Culture Pestilence. You had brought this music to my attention, and I've been playing it on the show, of course, and I really enjoy it. So I appreciate that you are doing new music and heading to the studio to create more music. I can't wait to hear that. And when this is all done, you know you're going to come back on the show so we could talk about particularly the new album. But let's learn more about what's going on right now with the band. I'm sure over the years you've had quite a bit of band's lineup changes. This is natural. It happens all the time. Would you be kind enough to please inform the listeners out there who currently makes up the rest of the Hateful Agony band?
So currently we have on bass old friend of mine, Kimon, and We have another guitarist that is called Sebastian, and we have another guitarist who is hailing from North Africa called Ikram, and I play drums, and we have Gianni, the Italian Stallion, on vocals.
Okay, thank you very much for letting us know about this lineup. And how do you feel about this lineup heading into the studio? Do you feel that you're going to make a really good album now? Is it going to be better than, in your opinion, because you think that you could have made something different with your recordings, you said. Is this going to be a better thrash metal sound than Plastic Culture Pestilence?
I mean, it's always the same. If you read an interview, and I am still a fan. I'm not like a musician who is like, oh, I play metal because I don't know why, and I private in my private time I listen to jazz or to, I don't know, yoga instruction music. For me, I'm still a fan. I'm still like, when I listen to music, I'm still like the 15-year-old metalhead who wants to headbang and go nuts and destroy his apartment when he hears a band. So I hope my music has the same effect on some disturbed teenager. So it's more, you know, I don't do this for fame or for the money. It's just I want to be part of something that I love and I grew up with. I grew up with all the old bands like Whiplash and Carnivore and Exodus and Slayer. You know the good stuff from the 80s. And when we formed the band, that was not there anymore. There was nothing you could buy, and I wanted to do the music that I can buy. So it doesn't really lie only in my hands how the next album is gonna be sounding. It's also the other players, and it's also the mixing and the mastering, and I do my best to put out a good album, and I did in the past, and I want to make something where I am happy with. And for me it's the only positive aspect of the whole media pandemic and of the whole COVID thing. It's that we actually had the time to work on the songs more and make it more complicated and make the songs more thought out, because there was no time pressure to go on a tour or to play gigs in order to support the album. We had like all the time of the world, and no one was putting us under pressure. We could really work with the songs until we are finally happy with them. So it's more complicated than the old stuff, I think. And on the other hand, it's maybe it's a bit different because it's more complicated, and I would say it's more thought out than the stuff than we did in the past. For me, like, you get an album and you listen to it and you're okay, this is good, and then you listen to it again and then you're like, okay, it's starting to get better. And if you listen like 5 or 6 times to it, it grows on you. I wanted to do an album which grows on you, which is more thought out and more technical and grows on you, and not an album you hear and you like, and after 3 or 4 times it's going to be boring. I want people to put time and effort into the album to experience it.
So, like, I totally understand what you're saying there. Let's inform the listeners on the making of your upcoming album. For instance, what studio will this be recorded at, and who will be responsible for the production, the mixing and the mastering?
We are going into a studio in Munich again, and I can't say too much about the producer and about the guy who mixes and masters the album. It's already in plans, and we have a plan when we go to the studio and everything. But I don't want to make it public now.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of bands here that like to trash talk and copy the moves that other bands do and stuff like this. So I'm going to tell you that maybe in like 3 months or in half a year or something like this.
All right.
We have a date for the studio, but here in Munich, the whole metal scene is, most of the bands is just competition, and they will copy what you're doing, and they will badmouth you, and they will trash talk, and I don't want anything of that. So I sound very negative now, but that's what I learned in like the 20, 30 years I live here. So
This is your
yeah.
reality. Yeah, yeah, okay. That's pretty sad.
In my opinion, metal bands should support each other, but I don't know. Some people have different ideas.
Yeah, sorry to hear about that, but yeah, I guess that's how it is. I mean, I don't know if it's that way everywhere, but
I hope
you
not.
you know better than me, that's for sure. How many songs will be on
9.
the new album? 9 new songs? Okay, great. What's the writing process like for the tunes? How did the tunes all come together? Who does most of the music and who writes most of the lyrical content?
We just throw everything together in a pot, and I
Ah,
write most of the lyrical content just because before we had our new singer, no one was really interested in writing lyrics, and it was just I, s- I don't know. For some reason, when I was 15 years old, I started to write lyrics. Even if I didn't had a band, it was just more or less poetry. Sometimes I have like very creative flow where I just sit down and write like 2 lyrics in a row, and then I write for half a year nothing. So I was in Mexico 2 years ago, and when I came back, I just wrote. I just started writing, and I had like, I don't know, half of the album the lyrics were written. I did some riffs, and then it was gone. And after half a year, it started again. I started again to become creative, and I started to write. I think it's just like the outside world. If I experience something new, or if I see something that takes an influence on me, I have to write about it. Be it writing riffs or writing lyrics. But we all now we happily all the band is involved in the songwriting process. We had years where I've been doing everything, or where there was just one guy who would help me, but now the whole band is involved, and I think that's very good.
that is very good. And is there a concept to the new album? Meaning, all the songs, all the tracks, are they tied into each other with one particular concept, or are they just a bunch of metal tracks?
No, I thought about doing a concept album because I also like King Diamond and Concept Stories, or the band Diseased from Washington D.C., who also have like something like a concept in the horror stories. But I thought about it, and I was like, if I just get one theme as a fan, as a listener, I would be bored if I don't like the theme, or if I just can't relate to the theme. So I was like, okay, we are doing the typical stuff we do, like songs about serial killer, songs about the dark side of humanity, songs about the destruction of Mother Nature, songs about politics. I mean, if you sum up what we do in a lyrical content, it's just the dark side of human existence.
That makes great music, really. So that's great. And can we talk about the imagery of the CD cover? Are you, at this point, are you allowed to talk about the artwork?
I can talk about the artwork. Yeah, the last artwork was pretty much stuff that at Repka would do a little comic like, and a lot of colors, and not very happy colors, but more in a way that the old thrash metal covers were like in the 80s. And it was inspired by John Carpenter, for instance, like the movie They Live. And it was more a social criticism. And now I wanted to do something which is more about being caught in an environment that you have to live in, but you don't want to live in. Like a family, you can't, the horror of your own four walls. That's what the cover will be about. And I wanted to break with the tradition of having a very colorful artwork like we did the last time. I wanted to have a dark artwork, more colors like black, gray, and white, and mixed together, and not so much different colors, because I don't want to repeat myself in the artworks that we do.
I got you. And just want to make sure I understand. Is this being designed by the same person that designed your last CD cover, or who actually will be designing your CD cover?
I can't tell that yet.
That you can't tell. Okay. What
I
about
can't
your
tell
bit?
that yet.
Okay, no problem. But we get the idea of what's going to happen. But what about the band's logo? Will you be updating the band's logo, or will it remain the same?
No, it will remain the same, for the simple reason that I, as a fan, when I was a kid, and I saw like the new Megadeth logo. Sorry, Dave. And the music changed. I was like, "Fuck, this sucks," and I didn't like it. And I don't like for instance, also Sepultura when they changed the logo. Also, the sound changed it a bit, and I was like, I don't know. I like the Motorhead logo, for instance, because when you buy a Motorhead CD, you know what you get, and that's what I really dig if bands are reliable. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to do exactly the same as a time before. I mean, you can progress without pissing on your fans. So I don't see a reason why we should change our music or our logo or anything.
I totally understand. You want your fans to have some sort of familiarity with your band, and this is really what I think. Some bands do change their logo because they are intentionally changing their sound, and
Of course.
they want to have like a new beginning. So your philosophy is to maybe the music's not going to be the same, but you want to be true to what Hateful Agony is.
Of course, of course. That's why I dig bands like Motorhead or Sodom. If you take like it's the first Motorhead record or the first Sodom record, and you take the last that they released, it sounds like two different bands. It means you can progress without selling out or betraying your fans. That's maybe it's still the same view I had like as a 15-year-old when I heard records like Renewal or when I heard some other stuff. I'm going to bash like all my favorite bands now.
It's
But
fine.
I'm sitting there and I want to hear like the new tracks from my favorite band, and especially in the early 90s. You have school the next day and you're sitting there and you're like, whoa, new record of whatever artist, thrash metal band, and you listen to it and they're like, what the hell is this crap? I mean, why isn't it fast? Where are the solos? Why is it so fucking boring? And I hated that. And I don't want people who buy our music to experience the same.
I appreciate that. Are you an Iron Maiden fan, by the way? I mean, who isn't? But let's talk about Iron Maiden. The early years, let's say the first, 7 albums, Iron Maiden's logo was Iron Maiden's logo. And did you notice when they changed the logo ever so slightly, the music wasn't as good as it used to be? You realize that, right? It just changed. The music changed along with it, and it's never been the same. You agree with
Yeah,
that?
of course, of course. I mean, I can understand that as musician you want to progress and you want to experience different things, like the Beatles when they went to the Dalai Lama or went to India or I don't know, and had some different influences. But I think you can do this with another project, and you don't necessarily have to sell your fans your gothic or in your industrial album if you started as a thrash metal band. So I still think it's betrayal, and I don't like it when I was a kid, and I still don't like it. And I think you can progress without like pissing your fans off or pissing people off who pay your rent or at least some of your peers. So for me, metal was always about honesty. So that's why we are not going to change our logo, and we are still a thrash band. And I am not going to put out an industrial album and tell people that I progressed as a human being and this is my way to express myself and all that crap.
I hear
No,
you.
sorry.
I hear you. Oh, sorry about that. But so you must be very disappointed if you were a Metallica fan, how they changed their music over time. They were no longer thrash at one particular. I don't really think they're thrash now. They're something else. But that must have been pretty disappointing to you, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of traumatas from my teenager days to deal with.
Right, right, right. Well, anyway, do you have a working title for the upcoming album? Could you let us know what you're going to call that album?
I can give you a hint.
Okay.
It's about your home, but it's not nice at home. You don't feel safe. It's about the dark things about your own environment and where you live or have to live, and that living at home can be even more frightening than I don't know living in a criminal environment. I can say that's the title yet because I'm pretty sure someone else will take it.
Oh,
So
okay. I have to respect what you're saying there, but thank you for giving some insight on it. And I know you're just heading into the studio. Do you have any kind of idea when you are planning to have this album out there? And will this album, once it's all said and done, will it be self-released, or will you be working with a label to help you promote this?
We don't want to self-release the albums anymore because you have much more opportunities with the labels than if you do everything on your own. So there's no sense in self-releasing this. And I actually see it because so many people told me I will fail with things that I did in the past, and I wanted to prove them wrong. And I still want to prove people wrong. So we are not going to self-release this. I hope so.
Okay. But are you currently signed to a label now, or will you
Yes,
be?
we are. But I don't want to, I don't want to sound like a complete asshole. But I also don't want to start the whole trash talk thing. So I just come up with things that I can say. So sorry, Dave.
Okay. Could I ask you this then? Will it be a label that you've already worked with?
Sorry, I can't tell you anything about this.
Okay, I tried. But anyway, all right, so let's see what we can tell the fans about merch. Do you have a plan in place for new merch to support the.
Of course, yeah. This is very important, and I
Of
always
course.
want to put out merch that looks good. And you know, I, I don't know what happened in the last 10 years because I'm a fan since the late 80s, and I buy shirts since the late 80s. And have you recognized when you buy a shirt now, like since the last 10 years, you buy a shirt, and then after like 2 or 3 years, it has holes and it looks like shit, and the print is going to wash off. And I think the quality just went downhill in the last
Yeah,
years, and
absolutely.
it's getting thinner and thinner. I mean, I sit here and I have a Sacred Reich shirt on from 1988, the original Surf Nicaragua shirt, and it's still good. It's still like a new shirt, even if it's a bit gray, but the quality is good. And now you buy shirts, and after I don't know 2 or 3 years, you can put them in the trash can. You
Maybe
know?
they're made in China. That's why.
Yeah, yeah. From
So
from
so you're going to be planning on making new shirts, of course, for the new offering, and maybe some patches and
Yeah,
anything else.
I'm going to talk to the boss in China to motivate the children more who are going to make the shirt.
Very
Sorry,
nice.
it was a bad joke, but I, maybe
It
you're
worked.
right. It's just because all the not even band merch, even if you look at normal regular clothes, it's all garbage. I wanted to buy a jacket for the winter, and I went into the city, and it's all garbage. I don't know. It's thin and it doesn't keep you warm, and it, it even looks like shit. So I don't know what happened to clothes.
Well, you can't buy that stuff online because you never know what you're going to get. When you get it, it's not what you see online. You need to
Yeah,
actually
of
go to the
course.
store and try it on and make sure you're
It's the
getting what
same
you're
with
getting.
it's the same with dating.
It's true. This is very
But
true.
I just want to make sure that we have good shirts like that are not going to be the print is gone after like 5 times washing, and I want to make sure that we have good patches where yeah, where you actually, I don't know, have your battle vest for 20 years and you can still see our patch on there and it looks good, and the and it's thought out, and it's not just like a fucking logo. I mean, some bands come and play concerts and they only have the band logo on their shirts, and they don't want to invest money, and no one wants to buy this because it's just loveless. I think it's just loveless if you don't put put work into your merch. So of course there will be new merch, and we are doing new patches, and we are doing new shirts, and yeah.
Very good. Well, let me give some links to the fans out there so they know where to look for this stuff. I'm going to give your Facebook, of course, facebook.com/ Hateful Agony Thrash. And if you still have your official homepage, it's hatefulagony.de. Do you think, of course, we know the problem with this COVID, but by the time you have your music out there, do you think strongly that there'll be possibility of you doing performance, and I'm sure you don't have any plan of that yet. But I'm sure that you do
We
want to
have a
be
plan
out
of
there.
that, and we will do.
You do?
Yeah.
Wow. Could you talk about
If
that?
if
No.
Yeah, we are already booked for some festivals, and we are already booked for a little tour. And I'm spending, even if I hate it to death, I spend a lot of time in my computer with the booking. Yeah, so we are going to play live this year, and we are going to play different countries, and I'm very excited about that. I absolutely keep everyone updated about this.
Good.
I don't want to waste like a year if the record is out with sitting on my ass and doing nothing. I want to do everything to promote it. So I don't give a shit if people want to see us in Kuala Lumpur, and they have electricity there, and we can play someone's bathtub. I don't give a crap. We're going there and play, absolutely, because that's what I love most, like traveling and playing. I mean, also writing songs. You start with nothing, and at the end you have an album. So I think that's the exciting about music, because we never have a master plan. It just happens. We just sit there and, okay, we have more time. What can we do? And so we are starting to do the very early versions of the songs, and then we add more stuff. And okay, there we can do gang shots, or there we can do a solo and stuff like this. I think for me this is the most exciting part of being in a band, not like free drinks, or I don't know what other people like about being in a band. For me, it's like the creativity. Just start with nothing and make an album or a song. You don't even know how the album will sound at the end, and then just go out to different countries where you have never been before and play the stuff and talk with people there about how they live, how the environment is in the country, and how the politics are. And I could have never done this if it wasn't for the music. So
Right.
I think this is a lot of bands are going to bitch and moan about, oh, and we have to pay so much money, and I have to sit for a week in a van, and I can't play my Xbox, and I don't see my girlfriend. I mean, shut the fuck up. You're going to see like a country where you have never been before, for pretty much for free, and you can drink there, you can talk to the people, you can play shows, and stuff that you can look back with a smile on your face. I mean, we
That's
had we had some we had some we had some fights on tour, and we nearly died when we were in Romania and shit like that. But now it's a good story, and I can laugh about it. If you can just take the opportunity and travel and learn something new, meet new people, as long as
yeah.
you're healthy.
You have a good attitude about that. Now, you were just talking about promoting the album, and I think in this day and age, you need videos to help you with that as well. That being said, do you have any plans for making any music or lyric videos to accompany the new album for the promotion of the new album? Is there a
Of
plan for
course.
that? Good,
Of
good, good,
course,
good.
we have to. We already thought that one out, and we already have a team who is doing advertising for the German TV, and we are making a new video, and so it's all in the making, and yeah, it's not just that we necessarily want to do this, but we also have to get like bigger shows and go on tour and stuff like this. And now it's the age of the computer, right? And where do you learn about bands, or where do you learn to know new bands? It's the internet. It's internet
Espe-
radio.
es-
It's
YouTube also, especially YouTube with the
Yeah, of
videos.
course, but it's still the fucking computer. It's not that MTV is going to play Headbangers Ball, or you're going to listen to this stuff on regular radio. It's just you have to put your shit out on the computer, and you have to be on YouTube, and you have to be on TikTok, and you have to be on all social platforms that you don't want to be, but you do it for the sake of your music.
This is
So
true.
of course
It's
we're doing a video, and actually, if I not as a musician, but if I talk about it as a fan, I fucking hate metal videos. Sorry to say that, but it's always the same. It's always like 4 guys standing in a garage or somewhere else and headbanging, you know. And we have like, I don't know how many million videos do we have where people just like stand in a garage and headbang. And of course, the band will be shown in the video and everything, but we still try to make something different.
I'm looking forward to seeing the future of your videos. It is a necessary evil.
Yeah, of course. Like a lot of things today, because I don't know. I think it's pretty funny if you look back, like when we started, you just had a tape. We had our first demo tape, and you went to a venue and just gave the guy who was doing the concerts there the tape. And he was like, if you liked the tape, you would play with a band like Gravedigger, or you could play with a band like Tankard as opener, no problem. And today, if you want to play a gig, you have to have your biography, you have to have your 25 different social media sites, and you have to have like 20,000 videos on YouTube, and how many followers and how many clicks, and it's like buying porn because of the dialogues. It's like music is in the music business now. I think music is the least important thing. It's just everything is about the image and the marketing.
Well, also, as you mentioned earlier, you have a lot of competition in this, so you have to do this to let the people know that you're out there. Otherwise, it's so saturated, you're going to be invisible.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I like some of the stuff. I mean, I like to talk to you. I like to talk to radio stations and fellow metalheads, and I like to do like video interviews for YouTube or whatever. And I like to talk to people who buy our music, because I still buy underground music, and I'm always happy if like bands get signed. For instance, I love the new Knife record, and I love the Enforced record, and I love the Ken Nardi solo CD. It has a good side and it has a bad side. But what personally pisses me off is just it has become very narcissistic. That the image is more important than the music, and music should be about the music and not about the image. That's my opinion.
But how can you disagree with that, though, right? And Tom, would you like to talk about your drum kit? Would you like to talk about your gear? Is that something that you enjoy talking about?
No, but I talk about it anyway.
Oh, okay.
I always buy stuff that that sounds good. So I am not someone who is sponsored by some company or something. I just go into a shop and I'm testing out the cymbals, or I'm testing out the snare, and I'm testing out the machines, and it's just what I like. And the thing I always buy since years, because it's the best and it doesn't break, and are the Vic First sticks. I really, if you play in a thrash metal band and if you hit hard, you should really buy Vic First, because it takes very long time for the sticks to break, and other skins or cymbals or snares or which double pedals. I play DW, but if I find next time I break something, if I find something better and it sounds good and I feel good with it, I buy that. I'm not except for Vic First, I'm not someone who is a fan of some company or something. I just buy what sounds good, and my drum kit is a wild mix of different companies.
Oh, wow, interesting. But yeah, I agree with you. It's all about the sound. If the sound isn't what you want, whatever the name is doesn't really matter. So yeah, I get you on that.
Yeah,
And
a lot of people are very gay about the company new names. They go online and search like other YouTube videos, and they have out like new symbols from this and that company, and I have absolutely no clue. I'm like, okay, yeah, well, nice. How much is this? Oh, okay, I can buy a car for that money. So no.
yeah, I got you. Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense there. And Tom, what do you do to survive in this world? What do you do besides the band? You have a regular job, I assume.
Yeah, if we
Would
don't
you like?
play live, go on tour, I work in a warehouse, and I actually used to be. My last job was being a test driver for forklifts, and that was actually very funny. I mean, no one died, but I had a good time there, and I made good money, and I always put some money aside. So if I need money for the band, or if there's something, I'm not someone who is throwing out money left and right, and so if I work, I always put the money aside so that I have money for times where I don't work and just do band things. So because if you have a regular job, no boss will understand that you have to go on tour for 6 weeks to support your album. So they don't understand it. So I just quit, and after the tour, I'm going to search for a new job. I used to work in a record store, and I went to school for that, and I did a degree after 3 years, so I could work that job. And later, I did the same when I used to do the warehouse jobs. And at my last job, I had a really good income, so I just put money on the side, so I have money for bad times. So it's good. I can live
That
here without problems. I can even travel, I don't know, to other countries without the
but
band. So I won't bitch about that.
but that's good that you save the money for a rainy day, as they say, because that's the
Mm.
best policy.
I don't know. My ex-girlfriend used to work for a bank, and she said like every day people are calling in, and they were spending money that they don't have constantly on stupid trash, and then they were, yeah, broke, and they had nothing, and um, they were insolvent, and they were calling the bank to help them and stuff like this. And she worked there, and you wouldn't believe how many people, even, I mean, I live in Munich, and Munich is one of the richest cities in Germany. And you look at the people, and they all look very posh, but the reality is different. A lot of them don't have money for food and shit. It's
This is a
just not.
yeah. This is a very common tale. This happens this way
Yeah,
in America.
it's
People live beyond their means. They live on credit,
yeah.
and then they got to pay that credit. How are they going to do that? This is very common, unfortunately.
I also blame the media for that a lot, because stupid shows like what is it called, Hanging Up with the Kardashians and shit like that, where you just get like the lifestyle of the rich and famous. You have to have the newest iPhone, and you have to have the newest fashionable clothes and all that garbage. And people who are maybe not so self confident, um, they will fall for that crap, and they are going to buy the respect of the other people with a new iPhone, or with clothes, or I don't know, with whatever. But it's a trap.
Yeah,
And
I agree with that.
uh,
And I know you're going to be very busy as far as what you have as far as your free time. You're going to be making this new music, and then you're going to be setting forward the future of Hateful Agony. But do you see any time down the road that you would want to bring back your radio show here at Metal Messiah Radio, the good, the bad, and the
it
ugly
was um,
Krauts?
it was a fun ride. At the end, it felt more like a job, but that wasn't the reason why we quit. I actually still don't know the reason why we quit. Got a story from Lucas, and I got a story from the guy who gave us the show, and I'm still grateful for being part of the whole Metal Messiah universe. I'm still grateful for meeting people like Melissa, and meeting people like Robin, or people like you, fellow metalheads, where you just can talk and bullshit, or talk things that are more serious, and who are also, I'm living for the music, and I think it's the same with a lot of the DJs who works there. So on of course, if I get the chance, I would do maybe another radio show, but not like, I mean, how much work it is, and
Oh yeah,
we were complete. The listeners only got like 1 hour of this, but it's like 6 or 8 hours of working. I mean, what we did for the show was like, we did for every show, we did a new flyer of ourselves. I don't know. On Christmas, we went out in the freezing cold in Santa Claus costumes and with chainsaws and doing stupid shit. And we went to a cemetery on Halloween and did stupid pictures there. And it was everything we did was very expensive, very stupid, and it ate off a lot of our time. It was a fun ride. The longer you do it, you're thinking about what can you do new. You always have to. I always wanted to come up with a new show. I don't want it to be like, okay, this is the good, the bad, and the ugly crowds with the same intro and the same flyer, and more or less the same playlist. So we always had like specials. We had like the Switzerland special where we only played bands from Switzerland, and we had like the Christmas special where we only played Christmas songs, and we had the Satanic special where we only played stuff like Merciful Fate and D-Side and Venom and shit. But yeah, of course I would do it, but just for like some shows. If I get the chance, I would be grateful. If not, okay.
That's good to hear. And the thing with you doing the internet radio, and I'm listening to what you're saying, is almost similar to how you feel about being in a band, and you want the listeners to be familiar with what you're going to do, but then again, you need to change things around so they don't get bored of the same old thing. So I understand what you're saying, and that's where you have the conflict within yourself that I even go through. I mean, I want to play a certain kind of music, and you talk about the intro. I keep playing the same intro, and maybe I'm going to listen to what you're saying, and maybe that's not such a good idea. But you got to keep them interested, and you have to let them know that they have something to be familiar with. The current DJ who's on the air, they want to be familiar with that, but maybe changing it up is a very good idea too. But hey, it is what it is. So if you do come back at some point, I wish you the best with that. But I really appreciate what Elsie does for us. So you telling me that you made your own banners, but Elsie is fantastic in making the banners. You should have sent him some pictures or whatever. He'd make the banner for you. You wouldn't have to work so hard on that.
Yeah, sometimes we made our own banners, and sometimes he made the banners. So we also, Lucas and I were always arguing about which songs we are going to play, and yeah, it was a lot of work. It was also a lot of fun. Yeah, and I remember, because I when I was a kid, I used to live in the middle of nowhere, and we had like one radio show where they would play metal, and it was called Radio Bremen 4 City Beat Heavy Metal. And I still have all the old jingles. I absolutely love the jingles that the band did. I still have all the jingles on tape. I think I need to digitalize them one day. But I have like stuff from Nasty Ronnie, from Nasty Savage. I have jingles from Tom Araya, from Slayer, from Chauvi de Macho, from Manowar, and the guys from Anthrax. All the 80s metal legions. So that's I think was the most fun part. Also interviewing bands that I love to hear since I'm a kid. We did interviews with Intruder from Nashville, for instance. Also interview with the singer from Atrophy, and this were all bands I grew up with, and it was an honor to interview them. And I felt yeah, I mean, it was, you get something from your metal fix, from your daily metal fix, and you want to give something back. I think that was just our way to give something back.
I totally understand that. And at this time, Tom, is there anything that you would like to say to your fans that are tuning in around the world? Anything that you'd like to say to them at this time?
What can I say to them? Well, that's hard.
Yeah? Well,
but actually, it's very easy. Thrash till death!
There you go. All right, Tom. Well, before we go crank out more Hateful Agony, I want to make sure that we did a good job. I want to make sure that we brought everybody up to date about what's going on with Hateful Agony. That being said, if there is something else that you'd like to mention that we have yet to discuss, please let the people out there know whatever it is that you'd like to say.
Buy the new Knife record, it's great. Buy the new Enforced record, it's also great. And do yourself a favor and support new bands, because these bands are going to keep the scene alive, and all the old metal legions, as much as they did and as much as I respect them and as much as I like the old albums, but there have to be a future for the whole genre. And I don't want to turn this into a fucking oldie show, which it already is. If you look at the festivals, you see the same in Germany, you see on every festival the same bands, and just the lineup changes from festival to festival. And I think it would be a good idea for people to check out new bands, because there are so many good new bands out there, and so many bands who are there who playing this music since, I mean, almost 20 years, and not even considered as a new band, like Vindicator, for instance. So just find out about new music, and don't listen to the same 5 records from the 80s, because there's so much new stuff out there which is good and which should get more attention and should be supported. Yeah, I hope there will be a bright future for this kind of music.
Very well said. And I want to thank you, Tom, for your patience in actually doing this interview. I think it was great talking with you. And I know we're going to come back here when the music is all ready to be played on the radio. We'll do maybe a CD showcase for the new album when it's all ready. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to learn about Hateful Agony and the making of your new music. And like I said, I can't wait for this to happen. So I just want to wish you best wishes and hope that everything that you're planning comes into fruition and your music is out there. You're signed to a label that works with you. You have your great shows and your videos and the merch, and everything goes as planned for you. I wish you great success with that. I hope you have a bright future and you can keep doing what you do. And hey, if you get to do another radio show at Metal Messiah Radio, hey, great. If that happens. If not, keep just doing what you're doing and keep in touch. And when you have any updates, please, let me know and we'll spread the word, because that's what we do here in the underground. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Dave. And I sent you the new CD and the shirt when it's done.
I appreciate that very much. Let's go crank up some more Hateful Agony now and crank it up loud. What do you say?
Sounds great. I'm already pissed drunk.